Welcome to Issues of Contemporary Politics with Dr. Brovkin. Today, my dear subscribers and friends and listeners, I would like to address one of the key and one of the important issues in the issues of contemporary politics, and that is the policy and politics in France. The title of today's presentation is President Macron, Empty Words and Grave Challenges. The reason I'd like to speak today about it, because there are two important events that just happened in the last couple of days. One is that President Macron and Prime Minister Starmer and Chancellor Merz got together in London to provide support to President Zelensky in his effort to continue to fight Russia. And the second important, and thus they put a challenge to President Trump's effort to push Zelensky towards peace or signing whatever they agreed to with Russia. The second event, which is for today's purposes, is even more important, and that is that the vote in the Assemblée Nationale in France that adopted a French budget, and in that budget there is a hole of $23 billion. Euros. So the Prime Minister Le Cornu, who happened to be a personal friend of President Macron, and that is why he was appointed Prime Minister after several other Prime Ministers who didn't want to or couldn't achieve support of the Assembly or the majority, finally made a personal deal with the socialists whereby the reform of the pension age was pushed back. And thanks to that, the socialists broke ranks with their comrades on the left and decided to support this budget. So what this actually means is that the political situation in France is very fragile. And the socialists claim that if this had not been done, they would have voted again for the no confidence vote in the Assembly, which essentially means that France has a very precarious balance and a deficit of 23 billion euros, which suggests that France is in no position to offer any help to anybody, especially Ukraine. It means that the French have, or the Macron, not the French, that President Macron has nothing but empty promises because he's got no money. But what I'd like to do today is not just speak about the immediate challenges that Macron faces, but look a little bit more into the root causes and the historical assessment of the challenges that France faces and how they came about. As you know, I like historical approach. I'd like to look a little bit beyond the surface and see what challenges France as a society faces today. Now, politically, of course, what Macron has done is simply take care of himself, because he's got to survive until 2027, until the next presidential elections. That's the goal. And then if things work out all right, then to push his friend into the candidacy of the presidency and to continue his agenda. But it seems to me that with a popularity rating of 12%, he doesn't stand much of a chance. So what I'd like to focus on specifically is the critique that has already been provided, and then add a few of my own considerations as to the problems facing France. And one of the best critics in this regard, it seems to me, is a French philosopher and writer, Emmanuel Todd, who wrote a famous book, Decline of the West, but also addressed many issues specifically about France. And they are obvious, they're seen by most analysts, but he put it all together and added a few things of his own. So what really does not cause any disputes is the process of deindustrialization, which France and Britain and Germany and Italy in various degrees and in different ways, but that is a problem. And the main cause of that is globalization, which essentially means that in the globalization, that the way the markets work, where it's cheaper and better, that's where the capital flows. And since it is expensive in Europe and labor costs are high, the capital and investment flies away to more affordable destinations. So France is in a worse position than many of her neighbors. It has lost competition to Germany in industrial goods, and that's been a long problem with French envy to the Germans in post-war years. It has lost competition in many areas of fashion and design to Italy. It has lost the competition to China, which has flooded France with easy consumer goods, easily affordable, that are easily available to most French people at a fraction of the cost that they are in other French shops. Now, another thing that Todd is focusing about is education, even though on the appearance it is quite good, but it is, from the point of view of Todd, is disconnected with the needs of industry. And as he put it, you have a whole lot of managers who have nothing to manage. Now, also in terms of economic problems, he lists high housing costs, which discourages having many children. It's a culture where most French families have two workers, which means women work, and that also decreases the family size, and the labor market is also very specifically in France, it has very powerful trade unions, and the trade unions connected with their political parties. And what trade unions want is what they always wanted, which is higher wages and less work. And that is a big problem. It's a cultural problem in France, because they want to retire at 62 and to work 36 hours a week. And that, of course, is one of the roots of the problem. That France simply cannot afford to continue living like this. Then he also points about what he calls high cultural individualism, which means that there is child-free families, that there is also what he called demographic postponement, which is a fancy word of saying that women tend to have children later and later. Statistics say that the early child is after 31, and that means that there is just hardly any place for having 2 or 3 children. Then, of course, there is one of the major problems all over Europe and in France, decline of religion. Less than 2% of younger French actually are practicing Catholics. Then, of course, what Marine Le Pen is talking about all the time, probably excessively, is immigration, which is undercutting some jobs, but I don't think that's the major reason. And then Todd, actually one of the very few who speaks about euro as a problem. How come euro is a problem? The currency euro is a currency that the French do not control. In other words, there is no counterbalance to making a debt. Now, if there is, for example, a national currency, then the government has such tools as devaluation in order to deal with the debt problem. Now, when euro is controlled by central bank, not in France, and that depends on all kinds of decisions on all kinds of unelected bureaucrats, then of course Todd considers that euro is a problem for France, and EU as a structure that supersedes French laws in many aspects of economic activity also is a problem. Now, I simply want to continue where Todd stops and add a few ideas on my own as an observer living in France. It seems to me nobody would dispute that the French like to have a good time, to have easy life. This joie de vivre is so famous, joy of living, which indeed is wonderful when you live in France, to have all these cafes and boulevards and cinemas and all kinds of other things, enjoyable parks and beautiful embankments in Nice and so on. But of course, the other side of that desire to enjoy life and early retirement is that the prevailing culture is less work culture. Now, in the United States, it's not like that. I don't want to praise the United States here, but it's just that there are societies where there's a work ethic of hard work, which is probably something that was a Protestant ethic: hard work, strong families, many children, savings, and investment. Now, all of these are gone in contemporary France. There are no strong families in terms of many children living with their parents, no desire particularly to save and invest. Believe it or not, in France, if you have an account in the bank, the government tells you how much you can actually save. They put a limit on all kinds of accounts, épargne A, épargne B, blah, 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 and they tell me how much I can save and at what percentage. It's absolutely incredible compared, for example, to the United States, where you can have complete freedom as to where you save, what you buy, what you don't buy, how much you have on your account, and so on. So another problem with this regulatory mechanism is that socialism in France is very restrictive. The government tells you how much you can save. The government tells you that if you want to pass your savings to your children, anything after 800,000 will be a pretty serious wealth and inheritance tax. Now, in the United States, by comparison, it's 12 million. So you can pass on to your children whatever you want, and only after 12 million it would be taxed. In France, it's 800,000, which basically is a cost of a nice house somewhere in the Riviera. So another thing which is striking in France is the suffocating bureaucracy. Anything you want to do, there are endless number of permits, high taxes, and a regulation that is just basically about every single thing. You want to change something in your house, you have to have this commission and that permit. I mean, endless number of permits and commissions that suffocate any activity. And then on top of it, it is a kind of a pretense of a great power, which is so laughable when Macron goes around Europe and China and pretends like as if France is still a great power it was 100 years ago and can dictate its terms, as if that matters or anything. Especially that is so laughable in regard to Russia and a conflict in Ukraine. But I guess to sum up, what I'm trying to say is that the drive is gone, the energy is gone, the innovation is gone, the optimism is gone. All that were so much a part of the joie de vivre, but it's just not there. The French industry is decaying. The French cars are not competitive. The French trains have been built 50 years ago and nothing since then. Are there any new engines that are being built for like airplanes or anything? It seems to be there's a kind of a stagnation that is very much, to me as a person who studies the Soviet Union, very much reminds one of the bureaucracy, stagnation, and lack of enthusiasm for the future. And that is what is malaise in France, which is quite serious, and one has to resolve it some way or another. And I am not it's not my job as a historian to provide recommendations as to what should be done, is what American historians and political scientists like to do. Oh, and they give, in Rand Corporation, they give advice. We should do this, we should do that. That's not what I am here to do, is give advice. Let the French politicians elected in the parliament decide what to do. But at least one has to be aware that President Macron is in no position whatsoever to help Zelensky or Ukraine, and God willing, he might be able to help France to find its way into the future. Thank you very much, my dear friends, and don't forget to put your likes, if you have those, to read my book, From Lenin to Putin, and also to look at my various playlists on Soviet history, post-Soviet history, Russia under Lenin and Stalin, under Yeltsin and Putin, and the history of Europe, a huge, big, about 100 videos on the history of Europe, and many other. And I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.